Well, hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Well, today we're talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 8, the Caves episode. There have been so many episodes of Star Trek over the years that have featured caves as the location. And that's primarily because on the sound stages of pretty much every series, from original series to Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, whatever, they've had a sound stage with essentially paper mache caves as like a generic planet surface that they can use for any episode where they need to be on an alien world somewhere. They normally get stuck in the caves, there's normally some sort of threat they have to overcome, and this Lower Decks episode is kind of taking a bit of fun out of those kind of Star Trek episodes. They were always kind of cost-saving episodes, and this Lower Decks episode does kind of reek a bit the same way. It's a bit of a kind of a cost-saving episode before they kind of get into the last kind of 2 episodes of the season coming up in the next couple of weeks. The Caves episodes of any Star Trek series are generally not the best episodes. Maybe there was kind of, 1 or 2 that weren't too bad. The one with the Horta in original series, I remember there was one at the end of season 2, I think it was, in DS9, where we got to meet the Vorta for the very first time, and the Dominion and so forth. Obviously, Wesley Crusher's last episode was a Caves episode. They've been scattered throughout Star Trek, and it's kind of a way of getting all of our cast on a soundstage, no location work, pretty ship in a bottle kind of cost-saving episodes. So we're going to have a look through this Caves episode and I guess talk about what was good and bad, and some of the homages sort of, I guess, that have played out in previous Caves episodes of Star Trek. So in the last couple of episodes of Lower Decks, we've had our Lower Deckers a little bit split up. There've been divided stories going on, with Tendi and Rutherford in the last episode, and then they switched it up, and we had Boimler and Tendi, and we had Rutherford and Mariner and stuff. But we've got all 4 back together again now in this episode. They're stuck in a cave. They're going to investigate some cave moss. It all sounds quite boring. And when they get into the cave, Mariner kind of says, oh, this looks like 1,000 other caves we've been in before, which is kind of a bit of a dig on the fact that all of the cave episodes all look exactly the same in Star Trek, because I'm sure they had just one set built on a soundstage, and whether it was Next Generation or DS9 or Voyager, they just do the rounds of whenever they had to be in a cave, that was the set they used. And then Rutherford makes a crack saying, oh, I don't mind caves. I love the flat floors, because that's true. Like, all of the caves never had undulating kind of rocky terrain or anything like that. They all had a perfectly flat floor with some dirt on it, i.e. the studio floor that was, all very nice and easy to walk on and move camera gear about in, I suppose. And Mara makes a funny observation in saying that it doesn't matter how many years of science and technology the Federation and Starfleet have, no matter what era, they get stuck in a cave and they can't communicate and they can't get beamed out, because rocks always beat years of science and technology. So the story of them being actually trapped in the cave isn't all that interesting in terms of them being slowly enveloped by the moss life form, I suppose you'd call it. But we got to see some flashbacks where we got to see Boimler and Levy flashbacking to a previous cave where he's the kind of conspiracy theorist guy who just Boimler was being a bit irritated by, being stuck with, and he's just spouting all manner of conspiracy theories. Being trapped in a previous cave with a bunch of Vendorians, doing a morality test on them. The Vendorians we've seen before. They were first appeared in the animated series episode The Survivor, so we're getting a bit of a hark back to an alien species first seen in an animated series for this episode. And as a cost-saving episode, of course, we're not going to have any guest voices in this episode. It was pretty clear that, the actor that does Shax, Fred Tatasciore, and the actress who does Freeman, Dawn Lewis, were doing the voices of the Vendorians in this episode. So, like all Cave cost-saving measured episodes, reuse the actors we've already got. Next we get Rutherford'S Flashback, which sees him and to Anna stuck in a cave where an alien gets fatally injured by an attack from a monster. She transfers her consciousness into Rutherford, and then he ends up having a super fast accelerated baby in this episode, which kind of reminds me a little bit of that episode of Enterprise where Trip Tucker had that holodeck experience with an alien woman, and then he ends up becoming pregnant with her child inadvertently or whatever. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of that. Rutherford obviously gives birth to the clone baby of this alien, and we get to see, you know, a bit of parenting skills from both Rutherford and to Anna in this little flashback scene. Next, we get the Mariner flashback scene, which has her and an away team from Delta Shift in a cave where there's some weird space-time things going on, where if you walk into a particular part of the cave, you rapidly age. So it's got Mariner and one of the other Delta shifters progressively getting older and older and older. There's a crewman that's broken his leg. They can't get to the mineral that they need on the other side of the cave without aging so much that they could potentially die. So they get the young crewman to go over and do it. He's got a broken leg, so his injury is like healing rapidly, but in a really weird way and not in a particularly right way at all. His leg ends up falling off. There's a lot of humour here with the, you know, the young generation suddenly becoming old and getting, oh, my hip, and all this sort of, you know, humour as they kind of rapidly deteriorate in that sort of time anomaly or whatever within the cave. And then we kind of get Tendy's flashback, where she's just, it's a fairly uneventful flashback, but yet the entity that lives in the moss in the cave that they're in still wants to hear the anecdote regardless. So yeah, it actually is a bit of a flashback to the very first episode of Lower Decks, where it's sort of a follow-on to what happened at the end of that. They're still kind of cleaning up from that first events of that first episode. They get stuck in a turbo lift for a few hours, and they end up, you know, playing some games with some socks and having some guessing games, and, you know, it's all fairly uneventful. But most of these cave episodes, you know, tend to be sort of quite drawn out kind of character studies. They don't tend to be particularly action-packed episodes. They're kind of more somebody gets injured or something and they have to recite their life story and that sort of thing. There's been many of them over the years throughout Star Trek. All in all, it was fine. It wasn't anything special this episode, but let's face it, the cave episodes never tend to be that mind-blowing. They're just normally a bit of a bottle show to make use of the existing sets in the studio. And we know that's basically what we got in this episode, which is probably a bit of a prelude to the final 2 episodes of the season coming next week, which is supposed to be, you know, somewhat bigger episodes. The studio's kept them pretty tightly under wraps because I think there's some pretty big goings on with the reveal of the mystery ship and so forth, or we might even have some cameo appearances by legacy Star Trek characters perhaps as well. So they've been kept pretty hush-hush because there's some interesting things coming up in the next couple of weeks for the second last and last episode of season 4. So stay tuned for that. Guys, yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section as to what you thought about episode 8 of season 4, Lower Decks, Caves. Do you like cave episodes? What's your favourite caves episode of Star Trek? Maybe let me know that in the comments section, and what you thought of this particular episode of Lower Decks being kind of based on those cave episodes. Leave your thought in the comment section and we'll get talking about that. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, be sure to do so. Click on that big subscribe button to stay current and up to date with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube, and be sure to check out my cool merch in the merch store. Plenty of stickers and hoodies and mugs and caps and everything at really good prices. From now until the 22nd of October, it's free shipping for everybody, so pick yourself up something and get it shipped out to you at no charge. Help support the channel and pick yourself up a bargain, and you won't be disappointed. I'll be back really soon with the next video. I'll see you guys soon.